January 1897, Elva Shue was found dead in her home in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. Her husband, Edward Shue, appeared devastated and refused to let anyone near her body as it was prepared for burial. The local doctor, who was initially called to examine her, listed the cause of death as everlasting faint, a vague term often used when the real cause was uncertain. Within a day, Elva was buried, and most people in the town accepted the tragedy as natural. However, her mother, Mary Jane Heaster, did not. She believed her daughter had been murdered and claimed that Elva's ghost appeared to her several nights in a row, revealing that Edward had strangled her in anger. Mary Jane's claims quickly spread through the community, drawing the attention of local authorities. Though her story of a ghost visitation was difficult to prove, her determination prompted prosecutors to reopen the case. The authorities decided to dig up Elva's body for a second examination. This time, a full autopsy revealed that her neck had been broken and her windpipe crushed, with finger-shaped bruises around her throat. The findings directly contradicted Edward's earlier account and showed clear evidence of strangulation. Edward Shue was arrested and tried for killing. During the trial, Mary Jane testified about the ghostly visits, but the prosecution relied mainly on the physical evidence and the inconsistencies in Edward's statements. The defense attempted to paint Mary Jane as superstitious and unreliable, but her testimony and the scientific findings carried more weight with the jury. In the end, Edward Shue was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison, where he later died. The Greenbrier Ghost case is remembered as one of the strangest in American legal history because it was the only case where testimony about a ghost indirectly helped secure a killing conviction. In May 1932, residents in Stockholm's Atlas district grew concerned after not seeing 31-year-old Lily Linderstrom for several days. When police entered her apartment, they found a horrific scene. Lily, who worked as a sex worker, was found dead on her bed, naked and covered with a sheet. Her skull had been crushed by a blunt object, and what shocked investigators most was that much of her blood appeared to have been drained from her body. Nearby, police found a gravy ladle smeared with blood, leading to the disturbing theory that the killer had used it to drink from the victim. Investigators questioned several of Lily's clients, many of whom were known to visit her regularly, but the forensic methods of the 1930s offered little help. The police found that the last phone call Lily made was to one of her clients, but there was no conclusive evidence to link him to the killing. Despite extensive questioning and a detailed search of the area, no suspect was ever charged. Newspapers sensationalized the story, describing the killer as a vampire and adding fictionalized details about the crime scene. Over time, the case entered Swedish criminal folklore as one of the country's most bizarre and disturbing unsolved killings. Ettore Majorana was one of Italy's most brilliant theoretical physicists, often compared to Albert Einstein for his intellect. But in March 1938, at the height of his career, he mysteriously vanished. He boarded a ship from Palermo to Naples, but never arrived at his destination. Before leaving, he sent 2 contradictory letters to his family and colleagues. One sounded like a farewell note, suggesting he intended to end his life, while another hinted that he had changed his mind and planned to return. After that, no one ever saw him again. Authorities launched an extensive investigation. His belongings were found aboard the ship, and police searched coastal areas, assuming he might have drowned. However, no body was ever recovered. Over the decades, multiple theories emerged. Some believe Majorana took his own life due to depression and stress caused by his work and personal struggles. Others claimed he staged his own disappearance to escape Mussolini's fascist Italy. A few even suggested he fled to South America or joined a monastery to live in secrecy. The mystery deepened in 1955 when a man in Argentina reportedly resembled Majorana, sparking renewed speculation. Later inquiries by Italian police in the 2010s concluded that the physicist might have indeed lived abroad for some time after 1938, though this remains uncertain. On July 30th, 1975, Jimmy Hoffa disappeared outside the Matus Red Fox restaurant in Bloomfield Township, Michigan. Hoffa was one of the most powerful labor leaders in American history, best known for leading the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. His influence extended beyond labor unions and into the world of organized crime, which made him both respected and feared. That afternoon, Hoffa told friends he was meeting two men connected to the mob, Anthony Giacalone and Anthony Provenzano, to settle ongoing disputes. Witnesses saw Hoffa waiting outside the restaurant, but after that, he was never seen again. Hoffa's disappearance triggered one of the largest FBI investigations in US history. Agents followed hundreds of leads, from Detroit to New Jersey, but none provided solid answers. Over the years, theories spread rapidly. Some claimed Hoffa was buried beneath Detroit's old Giants Stadium, while others suggested his body has been cremated or crushed inside a car. The FBI searched fields, houses, and even landfills, but every tip turned out empty. Without physical evidence, the case went cold, and in 1982, Hoffa was declared legally dead. Many believed Hoffa's disappearance was tied to his attempt to regain control of the Teamsters after serving time in prison for jury tampering and fraud. His growing independence and willingness to expose mob activities may have made him a target. Despite years of effort, no one was ever charged in his disappearance. Even decades later, the FBI still occasionally revisits the case when new leads arise, showing how deeply the mystery remains embedded in American crime history. In 1977, the small town of Circleville, Ohio, became the center of one of the most disturbing and puzzling mysteries in American history. Residents began receiving anonymous letters that accused neighbors and public figures of crimes, affairs, and corruption. The letters were typed in uneven block letters and revealed private information that only someone from the community could know. They caused widespread fear, dividing the town and turning neighbors into suspects. One of the main targets was Mary Gillespie, a local school bus driver who was accused of having an affair with the school superintendent, Gordon Massey. The writer demanded she stop the relationship and warned of public exposure if she didn't. When she ignored the threats, signs began appearing along her bus route. One day, when Mary tried to remove one of the signs, she found a booby trap containing a gun, rigged to fire at her. The police traced the weapon to her brother-in-law, Paul Freshour, who was arrested and convicted of attempted killing in 1983. However, even after Freshour was imprisoned, the letters continued to arrive. They were still postmarked from nearby locations and carried the same handwriting style, making many believe he had been framed. Freshour always maintained his innocence until his death, and investigators could never prove beyond doubt that he was the author. More than 1,000 letters were eventually sent, and to this day, no one knows who wrote them. On November 10, 1979, a farmer in Caledonia, New York, discovered the body of a teenage girl lying in a cornfield. The victim had been shot twice and had no identification. Police could not match her to any missing person reports, and for decades she was known only as Caledonia Jane Doe. Her case haunted investigators, who held on to her remains as evidence while technology slowly advanced. Then in 2015, DNA testing finally identified her as Tammy Jo Alexander, a 16-year-old runaway from Brooksville, Florida. She had left home after family problems and was last seen hitchhiking. Investigators believe she made her way north, possibly with truck drivers or travelers, before meeting her killer somewhere near Caledonia. Her clothes suggested she had been cared for in the days before her death, possibly by someone she trusted. Despite the identification, her killer has never been found. For decades, false leads clouded the case. One notorious serial killer, Henry Lee Lucas, even confessed to her killing, but investigators dismissed his claim when evidence didn't match. Law enforcement continues to test preserved DNA samples and review old interviews. The Livingston County Sheriff's Office and the FBI have repeatedly appealed for tips from anyone who might have encountered Tammy Jo in 1979. Investigators still believe that someone out there knows the truth, and until that person comes forward, her story remains an open wound in New York's criminal history. Emanuela Orlandi was a 15-year-old girl who disappeared on June 22, 1983, after leaving her home in Vatican City to attend a music lesson in Rome. That evening, she called her sister to say she had been approached by a man offering Avon products, and then mentioned she would take the bus home. She was never seen again. Because the disappearance happened within the Vatican's walls, the case immediately became one of the most mysterious and controversial in Italian history. Over the years, dozens of theories emerged. Some believed she had been kidnapped by criminals to pressure the Vatican over financial dealings involving the Banco Ambrosiano scandal. Others thought she had been taken by political extremists, hoping to negotiate the release of Mehmet Aliaka, the man who shot Pope John Paul II. The Vatican itself maintained silence for decades, further fueling speculation that church officials might have known more than they admitted. Her brother became a public advocate and accused Vatican officials of covering up vital evidence. In 2018, when human bones were found under a Vatican building, many believed they could belong to Emanuela, but DNA tests ruled it out. In 2019, her family received an anonymous tip suggesting they look in the Teutonic Cemetery inside the Vatican. 2 tombs were open, but they were empty. In 2023, renewed attention came after a Netflix documentary titled Vatican Girl. The Vatican reopened its investigation for the first time in 40 years, re-examining documents and interviewing witnesses once again. Recently in 2024, prosecutors in Rome began reviewing claims made by an online figure who alleged new details about Emanuela's fate, although her family dismissed these as sensational and unsupported. In 1984, Japan was shaken by a string of crimes known as the Glico Morinaga case, one of the country's most notorious unsolved mysteries. It began on March 18, 1984, when Katsuhisa Ezaki, the president of the popular candy company Ezaki Glico, was kidnapped from his home by armed men. He managed to escape 3 days later, but what followed was far stranger and more damaging than a simple abduction. A group calling itself the Monster with 21 Faces began sending threatening letters to Glico executives in Japanese media. They claimed to have poisoned Glico products and demanded large sums of money to stop their attacks. Panic spread across Japan as candy and snacks were pulled from store shelves. Supermarkets refused to sell Glico goods, causing the company's profits to plummet. In May 1984, warehouses were burned and the extortion continued, this time targeting other food companies like Morinaga and Marudai. The mysterious group taunted the police through mocking letters, describing how they evaded surveillance and how the authorities failed to catch them. The police organized one of the largest manhunts in Japanese history, following thousands of leads, analyzing handwriting, and reviewing security footage. One piece of evidence showed a man wearing a cap and glasses near a suspected drop-off location, but his identity was never discovered. Despite enormous public pressure, no one was ever arrested. In 1985, after a year of letters, threats, and poisoned products, the group suddenly stopped all communication. The case was left cold. Patricia Meehan was a 37-year-old woman from Pennsylvania who vanished after a minor car crash on April 20, 1989, near Circle, Montana. Around 8:15 p.m., she collided head-on with another car after apparently driving on the wrong side of the road. Witnesses described her as dazed but uninjured when she stepped out of her vehicle, looked at the other driver, and silently walked away into the vast open prairie. She was never seen again. Search teams scoured the area for days. They found her car, purse, and camera, but no trace of Patricia. Her footprints led a short distance into the fields before disappearing. Authorities at first believed she might have been disoriented or suffered a head injury during the crash, leading to confusion or memory loss. But as time passed, the case only grew stranger. Within weeks, sightings began pouring in from across the country. Truck drivers, waitresses, and travelers reported seeing a woman who looked exactly like Patricia in places like Seattle, Bozeman, and even as far as Oklahoma. Some claimed she appeared confused or unwilling to speak about her past. By the end of 1989, police had received more than 5,000 possible sightings, though none were ever confirmed. One theory suggested that Patricia had suffered from amnesia and wandered away, surviving under a new identity. Another theory was that she had deliberately chosen to disappear due to stress or depression. Her family never stopped searching. They distributed flyers, appeared on television programs like Unsolved Mysteries, and followed every lead they received. Despite their efforts, no physical evidence has surfaced. The case remains open, and Patricia Meehan's disappearance is still listed in the National Missing Persons Database. In June 1995, a woman checked into room 2805 at the Oslo Plaza Hotel using the name Jennifer Fairgate. She showed a Belgian passport and paid in cash. Over the next 3 days, she mostly stayed inside her room, rarely interacting with anyone. Then, on the evening of June 3rd, hotel staff found her dead on the bed. She had a gunshot wound to the head, and a pistol lay in her right hand. Norwegian police reported that she died by taking her own life, but from the beginning, the details raised suspicion. The passport she used appeared fake. Forensic analysis later confirmed that the document was either forged or produced under false identity. No records could confirm any real Jennifer Fairgate or any of her supposed travel details. Even the address she had written during check-in did not exist. The hotel keycard log showed some movements that morning, but no one saw her meet or leave with anyone. The way she was found puzzled investigators. Her grip on the gun was not typical of most people who take their own lives, and there were no gunpowder traces on her hand. The bullet trajectory also appeared inconsistent with a self-inflicted shot. Despite this, the police closed the case quickly, concluding she took her own life due to lack of evidence of foul play. Many have speculated that she could have been involved in espionage. Some journalists noted that Oslo at the time hosted several intelligence meetings and diplomatic activities during the final years of the Cold War. Others believed she was a private individual hiding from someone or something. Her possessions only deepened the mystery. Expensive clothes, a few toiletries, and no labels of her belongings, as if someone had deliberately removed them. Decades later, renewed investigations by journalists and online communities have not uncovered her identity. Every official document, every clue, seems to lead nowhere. The case remains open in public records, but no new evidence has appeared since. On June 30th, 1999, the decomposed body of Ricky McCormick was found in a remote cornfield in St. Charles County, Missouri. The scene offered no clear cause of death and no signs of struggle. When the police examined his body, they found 2 handwritten notes in his pockets. The pages contained strange codes made up of capital letters, numbers, and random symbols that no one could read. The FBI took over the investigation, believing the notes could hold a clue to who killed him or why he was in that remote field. Their cryptanalysis and racketeering records unit spent years analyzing the codes, but the meaning remained a mystery. In 2011, the FBI released images of the notes to the public and asked for help from codebreakers worldwide. Cryptography experts, puzzle enthusiasts, and amateurs all tried to crack it, but no one could find a logical pattern. Some believed it was a secret criminal code, while others thought it was McCormick's personal shorthand for names, addresses, or errands. His family said he could barely read or write, and doubted he could have written something that complex. Over time, other strange details emerged. The autopsy did not reveal a clear cause of death, and the FBI kept the case classified as suspicious. There were rumors McCormick had connections to people involved in illegal activity, though nothing was proven. To this day, the meaning of the 2 coded notes is unknown. The FBI has not closed the case, and they still hope new technology or public assistance might one day break the cipher. Ray Gricar was the district attorney of Center County, Pennsylvania. On April 15, 2005, he told his girlfriend that he was going for a drive along Route 192 near Lewisburg. He never returned. That evening, police found his red Mini Cooper parked in a lot near the Susquehanna River. Inside the car were his cell phone and some personal belongings, but his laptop, wallet, and keys were missing. In the days that followed, investigators searched the river and nearby woods. They later discovered Gricar's laptop in the water, and weeks after that, the hard drive was found separately downstream. Both were badly damaged, making recovery impossible. Experts later found that files on the computer had been deleted before it entered the water, raising suspicion that someone wanted to erase evidence. One theory suggested that he took his own life, since Gricar's brother had ended his own life in a similar area years earlier. However, Ray's family rejected this, saying he had no signs of depression. Another theory claimed he might have staged his disappearance to start over, as he was near retirement and had once mentioned leaving his career behind. A final theory involved foul play, possibly linked to one of his prosecutions or personal conflicts. Adding to the mystery, Gricar's search history before his disappearance included phrases like how to destroy a hard drive and how to remove data permanently. Some saw this as evidence of planning, while others believed it could have been someone else using his computer. In 2011, a judge declared Ray Gricar legally dead, but his case still remains open. Ray Rivera was a 32-year-old writer and video editor who worked for a financial publishing company in Baltimore. On May 16, 2006, he received a sudden phone call at home, rushed out of the house, and was never seen alive again. 8 days later, his body was discovered inside a conference room of the historic Belvedere Hotel. Investigators found a large hole in the lower roof above the room, leading police to believe Rivera had fallen from the top of the building. However, almost every detail surrounding his death raised more questions than answers. Police classified the death as him most likely taking his own life, citing the height of the fall and the trajectory from the roof. Yet his family and friends strongly disputed that conclusion. They described Rivera as happy, newly married, and focused on future goals. The injuries to his body were inconsistent with a typical fall, and some of his personal belongings, like his phone and glasses, were found near the hole without visible damage. This detail, along with the unusual placement of his body, fueled suspicion that foul play might have been involved. Adding to the mystery was a note Rivera left behind that contained references to secret societies, numbers, and movie lines, which some interpreted as evidence of a disturbed mental state, while others saw it as a cryptic clue. He also worked for a company owned by his longtime friend, which had been investigated for questionable financial activity, prompting further speculation without a possible connection. Some theorized he might have been lured to the hotel, while others suggested he discovered something dangerous in his work. Despite renewed interest, the police maintained their stance that the death resulted from a fall. 3-year-old Madeleine McCann disappeared on May 3, 2007 from a holiday apartment located in Portugal while her parents were dining nearby. The case quickly became one of the most publicized missing child investigations in the world. Portuguese authorities initially led the inquiry, but after months of uncertainty and public pressure, British police joined the search. Despite numerous reported sightings, leads, and international efforts, Madeleine's whereabouts have never been confirmed. Over the years, several suspects were questioned, including the McCanns themselves at one point, but no charges were ever brought against them. The case eventually focused on a German man named Christian Bruckner, who had a criminal record and was living in Portugal at the time of the disappearance. However, his involvement remains unproven, and the investigation is still ongoing. In 2025, the case returned to the headlines for an unexpected reason. A woman named Julia Wandel was put on trial in the United Kingdom for stalking and harassing Madeleine's parents. She had repeatedly contacted them, claiming to be Madeleine, and sending handwritten letters, signed Madeleine X. She even suggested she had memories of being taken from the Portuguese resort. During the court case, DNA testing proved that she was not Madeleine. Authorities confirmed she had no biological link to the McCann family. Despite countless tips, rumors, and theories, investigators continue to treat Madeleine's disappearance as an active case. Kenny Veach was a 47-year-old hiker and adventurer from Nevada who disappeared on November 10, 2014, after setting out to explore the Mojave Desert in search of a mysterious cave he had previously filmed. Known online for his YouTube channel Snake Big McGee, Veach had posted a video earlier that year describing a cave shaped like the letter M. He claimed the area around the cave gave him strange vibrations in his body, which frightened him enough to leave without entering. His followers encouraged him to go back and record more footage. Before his final trip, Veach told friends and family he planned a quick overnight hike to find the cave again. He was last seen driving toward the Sheep Mountains, northeast of Las Vegas. When he failed to return, his girlfriend reported him missing. Rescue teams searched the area extensively, but no trace of him was found except for his cell phone, discovered near an abandoned mine shaft. Some theorized he fell into a hidden shaft or suffered a fatal accident in the rough terrain. Others thought he might have intentionally vanished or been attacked by wildlife. Conspiracy theories also emerged, fueled by his reference to military testing sites and the mysterious sensation he described near the cave. To this day, the cave's existence has never been verified, and Kenny Veach's disappearance remains unsolved. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you learned something, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on any of the unsolved mysteries I discussed in this video, and subscribe if you would like to see a part 6 or more videos like this one. Thank you again, and goodbye.